Hi folks, Tim here, and welcome back to Elmendorf Acres in this special edition of From 8 to 38, the Chronicles of a Young Entrepreneur. So before we got to the auction, Abby and I were talking a little bit about what it's like being married to an entrepreneur. And in our case, we can really only speak, or Abby can only speak as to what it's like for her to be married to me. I can't speak to the husbands that might be married to a female entrepreneur, but I imagine many of the topics and many of the issues that you might face are across both genders. So one of the things we were talking about a little bit on the ride home here was sometimes it's really hard for me to relax and stop my mind from going crazy and thinking about every little thing, every little detail all the time. So how is that for you when I sit there and obsess over something, whether it's, good or bad? But
I think sometimes it's a healthy thing to do, and sometimes it's not. And you kind of have to gauge which one is which before you get annoyed at it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's annoying, and sometimes it's like, this is something that's needed.
Well, I know it was, we were having a discussion a couple nights ago, and I was looking at the way money was handled in a situation. And I said, I kind of feel like we lost a certain amount of money with the way it was handled. And I think you brought up a good point with what you had said. Why don't you?
I said that in the way that the situation worked out, even if it had worked out differently, we still would not have gotten that money.
Right. Yeah. And you had also said that the money that was potentially lost, it wasn't necessarily lost, but it was potentially lost or used in a different way, was not really money lost, and that I shouldn't look at it that way. I should look at it as money invested, and in this case, basically money invested in a very wise manner. So, from my point of view, having a spouse who is very supportive and is there to run ideas off of is a key part of the business being successful. So that's something from my end that's really important to be able to have and very helpful. So do you have anything you want to add to that, or anything along those lines?
Well, I think it's going back to what we said before, is communication is key.
Yeah.
It's really important to be able to communicate about stuff, whether it be personal or business. If you can't talk about it, then you're not going to come to an agreement. There's going to be resentment, there's going to be frustrations.
I know on our way up today, we were discussing different items in the auction, and I had actually gone up on Wednesday. We had a rain day Wednesday. I went up and did an auction preview, as I mentioned earlier, and I sat down and I went through everything that I was potentially interested in, either personally or for the business. And today on the ride up, we discussed the finances behind that, because we have our own personal finances and then we have the business finances. And we were hoping to purchase a 6-seater UTV for use on the property, and so Abby can haul the kids around, or all of us can go up to the property in one machine. And one of the things we had discussed beforehand, it wasn't before the auction, but it was before we got to that item, was how much are we comfortable spending on this item. And I know you kind of had a number in mind, I think, think, or I know at least I had a number in mind, and our numbers were close enough to where once it got past that number, I think we were at 7,000 or so.
Yeah.
And it ended up going for 11,000. Once we were past the 7,000 number, I was done bidding. And it's something that in marriages and relationships, finances are one of the number one points of tension and disagreement. And just because it's, let's say it's my business that I run and I know everything about it, and we could go on and on saying stuff like that, it doesn't really make sense. Clear your way?
Yes.
It doesn't make sense for the relationship or for the longevity of the business if that's really what you're worried about, is the business going to succeed. I would say we both should be on the same page all the time. Is that a kind of a good description of that?
Yeah, I think it's important to be like-minded in what you're willing to put forth into the business versus personally, and just kind of knowing where the boundaries are with that, so you're not in over your head with finances when you shouldn't be. Because especially at an auction, as an example, it's really easy to get caught up into the, this is fun, I'm gonna bid, I want it, and then you go so far and you're like, well, I could have bought this new for, another couple $100. Why on earth did I do this for a used machine?
Yeah.
And it's helpful to have the other person there as kind of like a boundary keeper, I guess.
Yeah, something like that. A goalkeeper maybe would be a better.
Well, when you set a boundary together, then it helps each other keep to that boundary.
That's true. Yep, for sure. So, yeah, the auction, they're a lot of fun. You go in, you're bidding with 3 or 4 people, and they're throwing numbers out, and you're listening to the auctioneer, and you're not paying attention, and all of a sudden you're spending way more, way more than you should.
Takes a lot of self-control.
Yeah. That being said, I think I've done pretty good at the auctions over the last few years.
Yep.
I think we went over a little bit a couple times, but not significantly. Maybe a couple hundred we went over or something like that, which in the equipment world is
not a lot.
A very minuscule number. One of the things that's worked well for us, and of course I may have skirted around this a couple times, but we kind of have a number that's set that anything above this certain number, and I'm going to pretend right now to not remember what that number is. Anything above this certain number, we'll have a conversation. And I will say, I don't think there's ever been a time where it's been, hey, I want this, we need it for the business. It's not just a want, it's a need, here's how we can use it. That Abby has said, no, we're not going to do that. It's been really good to have a sounding board, and there's been a few times where just talking it through and talking about it has actually made me make up my mind against the purchase. I can't give a wonderful example necessarily, but that's happened a few times where, well, actually it happened today. We were looking at a mini excavator today, very small one, which would be a good size for planting trees and shrubs, doing some ditch work once in a while. And it was right in the point where I was starting to get uncomfortable, and we had discussed it beforehand, actually, kind of what I don't know if the maximum number was, but about where we were comfortable. And I think I actually cut it off before we even hit that threshold of where we were and weren't comfortable, because as I kept running it through in my mind, and sometimes I'm over analytical, I think is the correct terminology. As we were running through all that stuff, or as I was running through it in my head and talking with my couple buddies that were there standing next to me, I decided that my cap on that machine wasn't 7,500, which is where I thought I originally was. My cap on that machine was 5,000, because for whatever reason in my mind it had lost value, and I think we made the right choice on that. We ended up with a different machine that I think is going to be a lot more useful for us. So actually we discussed that on the way up a little bit, about the varying pros and cons for each machine.
Yep.
So but back to the set number, any of the larger purchases in the business, we actually sit down and have a conversation. Sometimes it's just a phone call or a text, but the conversation is had one way or the other. And it's good to be open about that stuff. And from the husband standpoint to maybe the wives that are watching, try not to smash the dreams to pieces. Be gentle with it, but I think we've done good with it for the most part. And what was the number? 250, I think, something like that.
Yeah, around there.
Somewhere in that range. I don't remember. I truly don't remember, but the number's in that 250 range.
The number has shifted too. So.
The number has shifted, yes. So if we're out working and a weed whacker blows to smithereens, I have other weed whackers in the shed. But when it comes down to needing a new weed whacker, we don't have a conversation about, hey, we need to spend $300 on a weed whacker. So that's what we mean, that the number is a little bit fluid. It has shifted a little bit. We've hinted a little bit about a new machine that has been purchased. We're actually picking it up this week, so we have several machines coming home this week, I guess, from Sherwood's Power. This was a conversation that we had almost a year ago. We placed the order for this machine back in the spring. It's in. It should be ready on Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday. But it's a large purchase. It's in the $15,000 or $16,000 range. Something that we need for the business. We ran the numbers together. We discussed it all, and it's something that makes a lot of sense. So that's where we hash these things out together, and it makes it a much more, I guess, happy home life, right? With
healthy relationship.
Healthy relationship. So this is not only 8 to 38, the Chronicles of Young Entrepreneur. This is Tim and Abby's marriage advice. So,
I think sometimes it's also helpful to just talk it through, because sometimes you'll say, I need this, and it's this big expensive machine, and I being the person who does not like to spend lots of money, and like, well, what if we did it with this instead, and it's a less expensive route? And sometimes it'll be like, well, no, this other machine is going to save my body in the long run, and that there's other reasons for it beyond just it saves 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's helpful to talk it out that way, so that I also understand why we're getting the machine, not just I want this new toy because it's cool. Yep. Sometimes there's a lot more reason to it than it seems on the surface, and I want him to be able to, you know, do what he loves for as long as possible. And if it's going to save his body, then that's important too. Yeah. It's not just about the money.
Yep, I think that's a really good point. I mean, that was one of the reasons behind the conveyor. The conveyor itself was not something that we needed. It was definitely something that I wanted. In the long run, it helps productivity probably increases productivity by 100% based off of the numbers we ran yesterday with the splitter and the conveyor. The big reason behind the conveyor was the fact that my right elbow in particular over the last few years has been bothering me, and one of the things that causes it to flare up is the leaf blowers, running them in the fall, and throwing firewood. Both things are done in the late summer and the fall. So by not throwing firewood, it has really helped my elbow a lot.
Already? Yeah,
already it's made a difference. So it increased productivity. It's better for our employee, or maybe someday our employees, and the money spent actually helps save my body, which is really important. And I think we worked that through as we were looking at the conveyors. It was exactly that. Okay, yep, this is a fun new toy. Do we need it? No. here's why I want it. And basically the reason that I wanted it turned it from a want to a need once we realized how much it actually prolongs the potential for a joint surgery. So I have a lot of fun. A day like today, I have a blast. It's even more fun that we were able to buy a couple things that we wanted and for the business, so that was a lot of fun, at least for me. I love getting involved in that, and the dynamics of the bidding, and just all of that is fun. But it's nice to be able to kind of have it as a date day. Mom and Dad took the kids for the day. Actually, they had them last night, and we dropped the baby Joshua off this morning, and then we were able to do well, you made breakfast at home, and we had kind of a late lunch, early dinner out just now, and we're on our way back. So I think that's a lot different too. I know we talked about that a little earlier in the video, but that's a lot different than dinner and a movie out. That being said, many times I enjoy a day like today more than I enjoy dinner and a movie out. So
I enjoy both.
Yeah.
It's not that I only enjoy this or that. It's different.
Yep.
It's not always going to be we're going out and rock climbing or doing some other, hiking or recreational thing, which quite often we don't do because you spend all day outside, so that's not a fun thing for you.
Yeah.
But it's also, there are times when we go shopping with your family, and that's a thing that we do, and go out and do that around Christmas time, and it's a tradition, and that can be fun too, but it's not the same kind of fun, I guess.
Yeah. I know I have a hard time relaxing in a vacation type setting. I think that would be the appropriate wording for that, is the relaxing in a vacation type setting, because my mind is just always going with what needs to be done, who needs to, whose lawns do we have to cut, who's been on the waiting list for 6 months to get this project done. So all kinds of different things. I know it can be a little obnoxious sometimes. So.
It can. I would say that's probably one of the more annoying things about being married to an entrepreneur, is that even when the time comes to relax, they're not relaxing.
Yep. Yeah, countless hours on the couch sitting together, but the paperwork books are out sitting right next to me, so I can do that at the same time.
Yep.
I guess it's counted as time together rather than not being home, but it's definitely very different, I would say.
Yeah, it is. I think the vacation in particular thing is more frustrating than the time on the couch thing.
Yeah.
Because the vacation, I guess the expectations are higher for vacation, because you're spending the money, you're going and doing the thing, and it's a family, and we're all doing it together, and then you're kind of absent, even though you're there.
Yeah, worried about this and that and the other thing. I don't know if worried is the correct word, but working through it in my head and problem solving. I know one of the other things that at least comes to my mind is I look at everything as a problem to be solved, whether it's ever supposed to be solved by me or not. That's definitely there. And many times I look at opportunities lost. So, today we see all these machines that some of them went for a wonderful price, a really, really good price, and we are at the point right now where there's a truck payment because there's just a truck payment, and we had financed the tractor when we bought that because they were offering 0% financing. So we have 2 payments, and that's a very comfortable spot to be business-wise, especially in today's economy with financing rates that are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% based off of your credit rating. Anything that we went to the auction to buy today, we knew was coming out of the checking account or the savings account with a transfer to the checking. So it's a little bit frustrating as I'm seeing some of the prices of things, and I can't help but think, wow, that particular machine is $15,000 less than new. It's 30% off of sticker price. I would love to own that. I know somebody I can rent it to. So all these things are going through my head, and it makes it a little harder sometimes, I think, to relax and have a relaxing time. I mean, today was the auction. That was the whole idea of today. But I see things like that all the time, even when I'm on vacation.
Yeah, and I think you've mentioned it a few times, that when you're on vacation and you don't feel like you're getting the maximum amount of fun out of it, then you look at it as days of work lost.
Yeah, that's true too.
And I guess for me it's hard because I don't see it that way. I see it as days of family gained.
Yep. So it's this video is definitely a lot longer than we usually do. It's a little bit more of a conversation on the way home from, well, to and from the auction, but kind of wanted to delve into the behind the scenes a little bit, some of the dirtier stuff of the business, as it were. Every video you see is people smiling and happy and this and that and the other thing, and we certainly still are, but this is just stuff that comes up. It's things that need to be dealt with, and especially for those of you who are newly married or newly in a relationship with somebody who we like to call them an entrepreneur, but somebody who owns their own business is really, I think, the right wording for it. I don't know that necessarily the entrepreneur is. That's just the wording that we chose to use for this series. But it's very, very different. I think it's very good. I love what I'm doing now compared to what we were doing a few years ago. Like I said, I always had the business. Now it's full-time. I've put everything into it in order to support the family. We have basically set it up to where there's I don't want to say there's no fail-safe, because there's always a fail-safe in my mind. At least I've got it figured out. But I kind of, or I would say we set it up to where failure is not an option, right? To steal that slogan or the motto from somebody else, failure is not an option. We're going to make it work at all costs. So that's kind of what we've done. It's been sacrifices on both ends. It's been sacrifices from the kids. It's been sacrifices from Abby. Sacrifices on my end, here and there. I don't know if there's a lot of them, but here and there.
There's a lot of sacrifices of your time.
That's true. There's a lot of sacrifices of the time with the kids where, you know, we're, I like to say, building an empire. We're basically building an empire that hopefully one of the kids will someday want to take over. And if they don't, it's at least a very saleable business.
I think in any relationship, entrepreneur or not, but especially in the entrepreneur, you have to make sacrifices, and you have to be willing to go the extra mile for the person who might not have the energy to do it, or might not have the time to do it. You know, because sometimes, like, if you're out late working or at a meeting for the fire department or whatever the case may be, you know, you usually make the coffee, so it's ready in the morning. Sometimes I'll do that so that you don't have to do it when you get home after a long day. Yeah. And it's just like something like that. Or I'll make your sandwich in the morning, or you will take the kids so I can take a shower, you know. There's sacrifices on both sides. It's not just me doing all the sacrificing. That's ridiculous. It's a relationship as much as it is a business. And without the relationship, you're not going to have a successful business because you need that support.
Yep, it's the support at home, I think, is the wording that I'd be looking for that.
Mm-hmm.
Would be, well, I mean, it's, I was never in the military in any way, shape, or form, but I was in, and still am in, the fire department. I was in the rescue squad, did time with law enforcement, and there's the boots on the ground, right? That's what you call it. The military calls it the boots on the ground, I believe. Now, some of you military guys are going to hate me right now because I'm gonna say the guys on the ground need the support behind them. And myself, as being in the fire department, but many times we don't want the big chief over top of us telling us what to do, but it's the behind the scenes support that makes the operation successful. I think is what I was looking for. You know, when you're doing firefighting and you've got your nozzle, right? That's all you're really worried about. You're the guy on the end of the hose. You're putting the wet stuff on the red stuff, right? That's the bottom line. And all of a sudden, the water goes away. Well, what happened? There's a whole bunch of things, and there's 30 people trying to get your water back. So it's not you as the guy on the end of the hose who's attacking the fire that's the most important guy there. I think everybody has, at least within reason, everybody has an equally important place in what's going on with any of those operations, right? Because without somebody supplying the water, then I'm useless at the end trying to put a hose out. But if nobody's there to run that hose, then the guy pumping the water is useless. And again, it's just the people behind the scenes that really make it work.
It reminds me of the whole one body, different parts of the body thing. If everyone works together, then the body works well. But if everybody is doing their own thing, then you might end up chopping your finger off, and that's not good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it's I think it takes a lot of support from home to make this business work. My customers see me as the face of the business. That's who they deal with. Some of them have seen Owen more this year than they've seen me, but I'm still the face of the business, that they see me as the guy that makes the business work, right? I show up, I'm the one they talk to on the phone, I'm the one they text, I plow the driveway, I mow their lawn, whatever the case may be. What they don't see is the support behind the face of the business. So, what they don't see is the fact that Abby makes my lunch every day. She makes sure I got coffee on the way out the door, and water, and Gatorade, and any of the other stuff that it might seem like little stuff, and I will say I get angry when I don't eat. So it is really good for everybody that she makes sure that I got my food and water or Gatorade, whatever the case may be, or coffee. But yeah, it's important to support, and many times support means sacrifices, and it is on both ends.
I think it's also important to have your spouse's back, because there's going to be the people, whether it be friends or family or strangers in the marketplace or whatever, who are going to be like, oh, your husband's gone again, huh? Like, what's he off doing, playing with the mower, like making little of what you're doing. And that's something where you're going to feel belittled by that, and you're going to feel discouraged by that. And as your wife and your partner in the business, it's important for me to be like, no, he's working, he's supporting our family, he's doing this, because he loves us, and this is the right thing to do, and like all the reasons. I think if you don't have that kind of support, it's really hard to feel like you're being supported. Like with my predicament as a stay-at-home mom, not predicament, but situation. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and a lot of backlash comes back on being a stay-at-home mom because, oh, you know, all you do is stay home with the kids all day, every day, and you stand up for me. And if I didn't have that, I wouldn't feel supported.
Yeah.
So it kind of, you know, it goes both ways.
Yep, it does. It's one thing, and this is down to a more personal level rather than the entrepreneur series, but one thing that I know we've tried really hard to do is not even jokingly badmouth each other. I'll say something like I did the other day with filming it. Boy, I wonder what Abby would say if I brought this home. That's not bad mouthing. That's just a joke. But you know, there's many times you see where even if it is meant to be taken as a joke or meant to be a joke, it's hurtful to the relationship, whether it's realized or not. I think, and that's hard to. Well, it's hard to see sometimes. I personally don't appreciate it when other people do it, and that's why I don't do it. So I've seen it as something that's a big negative when people do that. So it's important to stand up for each other, and it's important. I think it's important to believe in the business, to believe in what's going on.
Yes. And to believe that you can do it.
Yeah, that too.
You know, believing in the business is all well and good, but if you feel like, you know, it's a great business, but, you know, we're not going to be able to do all this stuff that he's trying to do, it's, you know, that's not going to help anything. It's more of being that support of you can do it, but you also have to take care of yourself too.
Yeah.
Because you have great ambitions.
Yeah, I've got great ambitions. Yes, I do.
And some of them are definitely doable.
And some of them are great, and some of them not so great.
Some of them are a little greater than others.
Yeah.
And it's important to be able to be supportive, but also be the sounding board and the voice of reason sometimes.
Yep. Well, we had said early on with the YouTube thing, I guess 9 months ago now when I mentioned it, or 10 months ago, whenever we kind of started playing around with it a little bit, was we had hoped that at some point we would be able to get to the point with it to make some money from it. That's kind of the goal with it, is to have some extra income coming in. And one of the reasons behind that is it would, with the extra income coming in, it would be a little bit easier to devote some time to making some of the videos, and also easier to hire somebody else to work for us. And I remember you had said one of the things you didn't want to have happen was this to be another major stress thing on my plate. And a few times it has been fairly stressful, as silly as that might sound, but when the kids are running around the house and screaming and yelling.
That never happens.
Yeah. I'm trying to edit a video and I can't think because it's so loud. But I know that was one of the things that we were concerned about and we discussed beforehand. And actually the other day you mentioned that you thought I stuck with this a lot longer than you thought I was going to. So I guess there's something to be said about the fact that I just do not give up.
You are very hardworking and you strive very hard towards your goals, no matter what they are. And I don't think I realized how much of a goal this was for you, as much as I thought it was more going to be a hobby. Yeah. It's not a hobby.
It's not a hobby anymore. A lot of things I have are hobbies. Some of them are very expensive. This is actually one of the cheapest hobbies I have.
True.
an editing program on a computer and a couple cameras. That's pretty cheap. Anyway, well, thank you for watching From 8 to 38, the Chronicles of a Young Entrepreneur. I know this was an incredibly long video. Hopefully it was a little bit helpful. Our friends and family who watch this, hopefully you got a kick out of it. We actually had fun making it. So we don't get to ride in the truck together that much. Usually it's in the van with loud children. So it was kind of fun for us to do this together today. And do want to do another couple videos with Abby as far as what it's like and different experiences she's had with being married to me. So any of you watching it, if you have any comments or questions for Abby, please leave them in the comments section below, and we'll try to do another one of these videos. I'm not sure when. I'm not going to put a time limit on it because it looks like we've got some pretty crazy work schedules coming up. But and well, you're homeschooling now again too, so 2 children.
Yep.
Not just Jackson, Katie now too. So I'm not going to promise when the next one will be out, but if you have any comments, please leave them below for Abby. And as always, thank you for watching. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. There's a way to subscribe without getting notifications as far as every time we put a video out. I did a video on that a few weeks ago, so you can look up that, and that way you don't get notified on your phone or tablet or watch, whatever it is that you get your notifications on every single time we post a video. So that's all for today, folks. Thank you for watching From 8 to 38, the Chronicles of a Young Entrepreneur, and Tim and Abby's marriage advice. Have a great day.